Allora, per gli italiani ci sono le interpreti, quindi potete settarvi con l'icona interpreti sotto lo schermo. Klaus, you know there are the interpreters, so you can click on the icon below and you can listen all in English. Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome to the Eumans weekly meeting that started officially again today with regular meetings that can help you on one side to explore new topics or existing topics of actions for our political goals as a pan-European movement of popular initiative, and also to being always aligned on what the movement is working on, what are we working on, and how we can make our actions across the European Union more effective. For those of you who are joining for the first time, or for those that are following online this meeting, there is a bunch of people that often watch the meeting after we publish them on YouTube. Eumans is a pan-European movement of popular initiative, membership-based and supported by citizens, individual donations. So you can always become a member of Eumans and support our actions. We had our last members assembly back in September, where we identified the goals for the next quarter until December, but also the goal of holding our Congress, second Congress in Warsaw in the spring of 2023. The two main goals that we identified in our motion during the last assembly were mainly three. One is the advancement of the use of digital and technological innovation for democracy. And for this goal, we are working on an event that will be held in Brussels on the 6th of December, titled Digital Democracy is a Fundamental Right. And the second goal of that motion was to keep working on the activation of instruments of participatory democracy for the promotion of goals of fundamental rights and the protection of the environment. This week is the vigil of the COP 2027, which is one of the most important, or in theory, the most important international appointment on the climate or climate policies. And we thought it was a good idea to start our weekly meeting from this political goal, which is what can be done to tackle the climate emergency that, of course, it's evident in our daily life is more and more urgent from a climatic perspective, but also from a political perspective, if we look at the wider context of the war in Ukraine and the energetic crisis that, of course, is affecting the Europe first, but everyone. So tonight we will present, thanks to Marco Cappato and Andrea Salimbeni, a new proposal for what we have identified as the best way, or one of the best way, to tackle the climate emergency, which is the carbon pricing, and specifically a global carbon pricing agreement. We will explore this topic with the lenses that are characteristic of Eumans, which is how we can bring this to the attention again of the European institution through the European Citizen Initiative. Those of you who followed Eumans in the past know that this was one of our first initiatives. The European Citizen Initiative is the instrument of participatory democracy of the European Union, and we carried an initiative for a carbon pricing between 2020 and 2021 titled stopglobalwarming.eu. We collected 60,000 signatures on that ECI, and we were able to achieve some important results, including an audition to the European Parliament, effectively to talk for the first time about the need of a global carbon pricing agreement. The idea that is on the table for the Eumans members is to start again to work on this topic through the European Citizen Initiative as part of a broader project that will pave the way toward our Congress in Warsaw, which is to verify the conditions for launching multiple European citizen initiatives next year as a way to strengthen the transnational networks and to propose a bottom-up agenda to the European institutions. So tonight we will see the new text that you already have received for a potential initiative on carbon pricing. Andrea Salimbeni, who worked on that, will present it. Before that, I leave the floor to the other Eumans co-president, Marco Cappato, for adding on what I introduced, the importance of this meeting, also in the, not only tonight, but in what we can do on this and why it's important to do this now.
Thank you, Virginia. Hello to everybody. No, I will leave the floor quite immediately to Andrea Salimbeni, because you already perfectly introduced the picture. I think that there is a wider and wider gap between what is said by anybody about the urgency of tackling climate change on one side. On the other side, what is done. The new report from the International Panel on Climate Change is saying that we should, in order to achieve the goals from the Paris Agreement, we should reduce our emission compared to 2010. In 2030, we should reduce by 45% our emissions. And with the current commitments, we are in the direction of increasing our emission by 10%. This would lead at the end of the century to an increase of the average temperature, not by 1.5 degrees, which is the Paris goal, but by from 2.1 to 2.8, so an average of 2.5% increasing degree from pre-industrial era. This would have tremendous consequences, but there are no political real there are no real consequences on commitment, factual commitment, not just words, by national governments. And I think we are not going to change this without putting the hands in the economics, in the economic system. And either we should either we achieve in making pay the real value of CO2 emission as a price, either nothing serious can be achieved. It's not only an issue of CO2, it's an issue in general of natural resources, and this is also why this new European Citizen Initiative should widen the scope of the previous one. So not just a European, but a global agreement on carbon pricing in Europe, or something already has been done, even if not sufficient, but at least something is going on. So a global approach, not only on CO2, and with also a clear phasing out objective on fossil extraction. I think this is also something that we should consider. So putting clear deadlines in stopping of oil extraction. But this, of course, Andrea knows much better than me. We know how weak a European Citizen Initiative can be if there are not the sufficient support around in the civil society. So, of course, the tool is not a goal per se. The tool is just a tool. So it's a tool to try to mobilize organization and the political international community on this kind of goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Before leaving the floor to Andrea, I want to add a couple of elements that I think are super important for this first meeting of this new ECI. because the people that are in this meeting have a unique opportunity that life gives, which is to give things for the second time. It's important to know, because everything that Marco said on the ACI is absolutely true, but it's important for us as a movement to remember that with the other European citizen initiative, we were able to connect with promoters of other European citizen initiatives. For example, Klaus Sambor from the Unconditional Basic Income PCI is with us tonight. He follows our work, he's a Eumans member. And so this is a little symbol of the fact that the way how we carry on the initiative strengthen the connections with other citizens working with the same instrument. And this is an important stepping stone that it wasn't there before when we did the first ECI. The second element is that currently it's relevant as a movement. Currently the ECI is under revision by the European Commission. So they have to do a revision now, and then the next one will be in 2028. So there is things moving on the instrument in itself, and with the work that we are doing also with the European Citizen Assemblies, the Conference on the Future of Europe, there is also a different wave. I don't want to be too optimistic, but there is an interesting wave of democratic participation, combining the goals with the instruments across the European Union in itself. So what we're doing tonight, and sorry, this is one element. And the fourth one is that the first time we worked on carbon pricing, we had a text that was prepared by Professor Alberto Maiocchi, and it was the ECI already there, launched and ready to start and collect the signatures. This time we have an important opportunity to start to be trained with Andrea on the topic tonight. And so this gives us, the people in this meeting, the possibility to start to use this document that we will present tonight to engage with other organizations in Italy, or those that are Italians, or across the European Union, to put together people to look at the text together, to discuss it with Andrea, with us, with all the possibilities that we have, to have a stronger network that agrees on the matter that we are proposing. And these steps, in addition to what Marco said, are important to lay the ground for the discussion of tonight, because it's about learning from Andrea what we advanced in the proposal, how we changed it, but also to discuss together how this nucleus of humans, and humans with H and without, can propagate the network from where we started, from where we want to go, and from now on. So Andrea, the floor is yours to introduce us to this approach.
Thank you, Gila. Yeah, I'll try to be quick. There is always the issue when we talk about environment to combine the technical aspects with the very much understandable issue, which is the global warming. Since when we presented the first proposal, Stop Global Warming, we were one of the few associations proposing something and proposing a solution, an alternative solution for fighting.
Andre, mi sa che la tua connessione, Andre, I think your connection is bad. Maybe no video.
The climate crisis.
Andrea,
again, the attention to the. Can you hear
me? Not very well. I think you have a bad connection. Maybe without the video. Yes, or maybe try to remove the video, because we lost basically everything you said.
Okay, I try again, and then in case I remove the video.
Okay.
But I was just starting to say that the proposal comes from the need of identifying a solution to fight global warming and to answer to what many associations say. So we have to meet the target, we have to do something to meet the target. We have to stop using fossil fuels. We have to stop polluting. Most of the environmental associations says that the limits and the target limits about CO2 emissions are not enough. We are putting in evidence that the present solutions proposed by the Commission and the Parliament are not enough. They say they want to phase out the fossil fuel vehicles by 2035, but 2035 is about 12 years from now. It's not enough, because in 12 years we will probably be in a worse condition. And again, phasing out means that we stop producing fossil fuels vehicles in 2035, not to use. So that means that if you buy in 2034, then you can use for another 10 years. These measures are definitely the same measures that Europe has always taken in the past, doing something, but without really doing anything. These measures are that measures that brought to a continuous increasing of CO2 emissions. So what is the issue? It is true that Europe is an example for other countries, because Europe was the first building up an emission trading system, so giving a price to the CO2. Europe was one of the first putting targets on European CO2 emissions, and putting targets on alternative fuels and so on. So it is true that Europe is an example, but the issue is that so far, since the conference in Paris, all the measures and the targets proposed by the European Commission for itself could not be achieved because of the issue and the consequence on the competitiveness of European industries these measures could have. Because if Europe, as it is alone in proposing measures for fighting global warming, and then taxing and putting a pricing on CO2, if Europe is alone in the transition has a cost. And if Europe is alone in starting the transition, Europe will be alone in supporting this cost. And this cost will have an impact on the competitiveness of European industry sector. So this is the reason for which in the last 10 years, 15 years, all the environmental protection measures proposed by the European Commission could not be achieved because they have been stopped by other not EU countries that could compete with European industries and actually damage the European industry sector. So what we propose is to, become aware that we cannot do anything alone. And all the measures that Europe can propose, including the carbon pricing, is not effective until all countries, not only in Europe, but United Nations countries, will be taking part to this transition. So what we are proposing is that we stop promoting policy measures with targets at 2035 because we are afraid about losing competitiveness of European industries compared to the other non-EU industries. We have to stop considering global warming an European problem. The same, we have to stop considering global warming as a national problem, the same. So as Europe always says that we are, as European, we are driving the change, our target and our request is that Europe presents a proposal for a global carbon pricing to be defined now and to be agreed in few years, not in 2035. Because the global carbon pricing is the only way that we have that the transition is done and that global warming is avoided, because it's a global problem. So in our proposal that you could read, we ask to phase out from fossil fuels, not only for cars, to stop extracting fossil fuels in the short time for Europe. But how we can achieve this? We can achieve this only if the transition is agreed by all United Nations countries, so that the CO2 could have the same price and the same minimum price in all United Nations and not only in Europe. This is the only way we have to preserve a safe and competitive market in Europe and to fight global warming at the same time. Additionally, this is the only way we have to change the energy system that we have now, which is based on the importation of fossil fuels from every country that we can find out of Europe, and most of them affected by dictatorships, and to change this system to an equal system where we give sustainability a price and a value, so that who produces sustainability gets the money. This is something that it is not done by us and invented by us. Is a theoretical approach, not that theoretical nowadays, which brought to the development of carbon pricing systems. Carbon pricing systems are not only in Europe, now they are in California, in Quebec, in New Zealand, in Switzerland. Carbon pricing is now taking place also in China. But anyone is doing its own carbon pricing system. We have to do one single carbon pricing system agreed by all. This is the only way we have to avoid doing economic war or any other conflict based on protectionism of our economies. So our proposal is rather simple, we can say, and not that different from the first. We ask for a global carbon pricing, not only for European. We ask this carbon pricing system to have a lower threshold of 50 euro per ton as a price for the CO2. And we ask to do it soon. Moreover, the request, likewise in the first version, is to use the revenues of the carbon pricing to help lower salaries to be to reduce the tax burden on lower salaries, and more to support countries which have a low carbon footprint. This is something that it is basically derived by the first version of Stop Global Warming campaign. And it is the condition to help lower salaries to support the transition, because this transition will have a cost, in particular in the short time, as many economists say. The transition, the carbon pricing will have a cost in particular in the first 3-5 years before the transition is achieved, also in terms of economic balance. In the first years, we have to support lower salaries so that they can survive without being affected by the potential increase of costs, because we have to take in account. And how they can do that? They can be helped and supported by reducing the tax burden on their salaries using the revenues from the carbon pricing. This is the green transition of the fiscal system that Marco was saying before and promoting many times. So this is our proposal. It's not the difference than the previous one. The proposal is to do something at global level, because carbon pricing cannot be only European, and because the warming and the climate crisis is not local, it's global. That is what we propose. And of course, it is crucial. Now we know it is crucial for us to understand what are the not clear or complicated aspects of the proposal, because, as I said before, technical aspects can be difficult to understand. And as we want to achieve signatures by people and citizens, we want people to easily understand what we ask. So Asia is helping on that, but we ask everyone to contribute to that, because it will be really helpful to make the proposal clear and user-friendly, I would say.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much. And Marco, and who worked on the new concept so that we have a basis. First of all, I invite everyone who has questions or comments to raise your hands. Thank you, Klaus. I noted you down. And maybe we collect some things, and then Andrea and Marco can react. Before Klaus, I start with some questions that I had in mind. The first one is, if we already know, or if it's something to further explore, how the European Union can actually do this. Like, because I already see a counter objection in my mind, which is, okay, but the European Union doesn't sit as such at the United Nations. So what is the real feasibility of addressing the European Union to move at a global level? I think this is an area that, in my opinion, we need to being able to reply or write in the text if it's needed. That I don't know, but it's the first feedback that comes to my mind. The second, I remember when we had all the work on the Stop Global Warming.eu initiative, the numbers were also the most difficult thing to find an agreement between, particularly the experts communities on carbon pricing. So someone says that number is too low, it's too high, it's impossible to achieve. Like, so I would like to understand how these numbers that we put in the proposal are checked, how wide is the support in the scientific community, or if we need to consider an effort with the more technical organizations on this topic. And the third one, I think it's important that we also talk about fossil fuels and other more user close elements, because I think the other ECI was maybe very high level, and it was difficult to find something that touched the people in their daily lives. So I would like to understand if in your idea, Andrea, this idea of the fossil fuels and it's somehow a way also to intercept more the attention of the average person with an attitude for the environment, but that maybe is not so technical as in the previous edition. So these are my three feedback questions. Klaus Sambor, from the member of Eumans and from the Unconditional Basic Income European Citizen Initiative Network.
Thank you very much. I only want to say I be completely in line what was now said, and I will fully support it, and I have said it. Nevertheless, I want to make a statement. On the 2nd of November, we had from ATTAC Germany a meeting from Werner Retz with Ronald Blaschke, and they have spoken exactly about Earth for All. That is the last version of the Club of Rome, which comes out just now, 2022. And they are given many figures and many serious statements that it cannot go on as it was, and the global problem has to be solved. And he has made a very good overview, and we could perhaps for a later discussion ask Ronald to make a translation to the English version of that, because it was a very good overview. That was my statement.
Thank you, Klaus. I think I'm noting things down, but I guess also Andrea is doing. If we have connection like this to check our proposal, Andrea, I think it's a good idea to try and expand through the contacts of Ronald and Klaus. Okay, noting down. Thanks, Klaus. Lorenzo Mineo.
Yes, this is also for Klaus. I was wondering, I was thinking about the previous proposal on carbon pricing, and I think one of the main aspects there was the social compensation measure for carbon pricing. In our cases, we were proposing to lower taxes on labor, but of course we can imagine other forms of welfare measures, for instance. So I'm wondering, I don't think we can absolutely merge the proposal of universal basic income and the proposal of carbon pricing, but somehow to imagine to run simultaneously those campaigns with both network collecting signatures. So this is in the framework of the general idea of Eumans to launch a package of ECI the next spring that we will discuss also in the next meetings. But yeah, I'm wondering if a further discussion with your network, Klaus, would lead to a simultaneous campaign on social carbon pricing and universal basic income in Europe.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Also to report to the members, yesterday I attended the meeting of the Unconditional Basic Income Network, and they are also working on the relaunch of their ECI, so there is an interesting alignment of stars there. So Klaus, please, if you want, I mean, maybe let's have Paola and keep your hands on if you have other questions. Paola Stringa.
Ciao, parlerò in italiano. Mi chiedevo, ma questa proposta, quella del carbon pricing, si raccoglieranno le firme e con la piattaforma, quella europea a cui si accede con lo SPID? Sì, io lì sopra avevo firmato quella delle Pine di Squalo, che ho visto che è arrivato al 1 milione di firme, sono contentissima per quello. C'è una pagina che sto seguendo che secondo me potrebbe essere interessata a questo discorso qui, è quella dei jet dei ricchi, non so se l'avete visto. È una pagina dove monitorano i viaggi fatti sui jet privati e fanno il calcolo di quante emissioni di CO2 hanno prodotto con il singolo viaggio, chiedendosi oltretutto per quale finalità il VIP di turno l'aveva fatto, e potrebbe essere interessante. Tutto qui, grazie.
Thank you, Paola, also for always having a practical idea to connect the initiatives with potential connections. So thank you very much. Is there anyone that has comments or questions? Or maybe we can have a round with Andrea first and then Klaus on the initial round of things. Andrea.
Yeah, I had the same. I mean, about the fossil fuels. Starting about on the fossil fuels aspect. Yes, it is a way of simplifying the concept, because at the end the target is there. So we know that it can be a popular way of telling the story, but the story is that what we do is to stop fossil fuels. So it was also I agreed when Marco proposed, and I think it makes sense that the target is to stop extracting fossil fuels and to stop importing them, because we don't have, so we did not have the issue. We have a lot, we have not have a lot, at least. So yes, but anyway, they are strictly part of the target and of the proposal, because at the same time, the issue about the numbers, The numbers are based on the most recent outcomes of researchers about the phase out of fossil fuels time. So it is their results that they can be really phased out in 2016. On the basis of that, and on the previous proposal, we said, okay, we can do that. How we do that and how we preserve our structure and how we improve the economic system with the carbon pricing. So that means that we do not only agree on that fossil fuels can be banned within 2026. We tell how, using an instrument, which is the carbon pricing existing, enlarging to a world level, but with the same condition that are now, because now CO2 price in Europe is about 70 euro per ton. We say to set a threshold of 50. So we are not asking so much. The reason is that we have 70 in Europe, we have 2 in Quebec. So that is the point. Of course, we cannot propose an entire legislation. You know, we cannot propose a regulation. We are just proposing what we want. I mean, it is the example of Paola is a good example. The ECI, successful ECI, they are really specific, and they don't care about how. They just want that to be done. Though they don't tell how. They say what they want, because that is the most the easiest way of having signatures. We want to phase out fossil fuels within 2026. Then, because we are good guys, we also propose how. But the first is we want to phase out fossil fuels by 2026. So there is a difference between the first ECI, which was we want a price on CO2, but that price was already existing. In the first proposal, we wanted to modify an existing regulation. This time, we just say that we want that to be done. And then in the explanatory page, we say how, because we believe in that instrument, which is already in place. So about your last point, Virginia, I agree on that with you, and I'm not maybe the right expert for that. It is that Europe has not a chair in the United Nations as Europe. That is true. So the point is, should we ask to any European member states, or should we ask Europe as a parliament to give mandates to the member states? Because that is the point. Should we refer to the Consilium of Europe?
But Andrea, sorry if I interrupt you, but in the last COP26,
Yes.
Timmermans played directly a big role
Yes.
as a vice president of the European Commission, and he was invited as himself, as such, to the most relevant final closing meetings and bargaining from China and so on. So
yes, that's true.
At the end, I don't know. I even don't know. I also don't know which kind of institutional solution was conceived, but the European Union is already at the table as such at the COP.
Yes, yes. Yeah, okay. I mean, for that, it is up to you on how to ask. For me, it's okay to leave it as it is, or to find another way. It is just because I'm not I don't have an answer on that. Last thing, I think important about the communication. Paola suggested this page. I had also started developing short texts about that, and also Asia is supporting on that, to show and to give explanation about why we should do that. For example, how much the cost of a flight will increase with carbon pricing, and about also what would be increase of natural gas price with the carbon pricing. For example, just to give interesting numbers, when we started, our proposal of 50 euro per ton in 2019, the impact on the price of natural gas was about 50% more. So an increase of 50% in the cost of natural gas, raw energy. Nowadays, the increase will be of 7% because natural gas now is increased a lot. So having the same CO2 price of 50 euro per ton of natural gas, even for domestic uses, it will increase the cost of the natural gas of 7% today. In 2019, it was 50. But be aware, this increase is not on the global cost of the energy, but is only on the primary energy cost, without taxes, without disposal and supplier cost. So it is interesting to know that what we propose is not having a great impact on daily life. There is also another interesting website where farmers, you say that we emit a lot for meat production, and then you take the Airbus and you emit like us in 20 years with one trip. But every of this stuff is interesting and could be part of a communication which should be effective anyway.
Thank you, Andrea. Before leaving the floor to Klaus, I want to make a couple of points on what you said. So on the Timmermans role, thanks, Marco, for bringing it up. I think the meeting is also useful to be ready for the objections. So, for example, the fact that there is a precedent that the commissioner was invited at COP is perfect. It's just that I think we should be ready to have arguments for each part of the proposals. Arguments, sorry, no, not arguments, but solutions or comments or strengthen what we say. But I don't think we don't need to again say the way how the European Union should act as a global player, but it's good to have to start to develop some narratives for each leg of the initiative somehow, which is, I guess, is what Asia is already doing. I really like the point. I want to highlight the point that Andrea made on the fact that successful ECIs often don't say how, but say what. I think this is important as we keep discussing on the ECI. Again, as what we do as humans, we also are campaigning a lot and doing initiatives on the citizen assemblies as an instrument, an additional deliberative instrument of participation. The European Union has the experience now of the Conference on the Future of Europe with sortition-based citizens panels that came up with proposals of reform for the EU. I can tell that, for example, the promoters of the Save the Bees ECI, that was one of the last one that got 1 million signatures, are, for example, now campaigning for the idea of associating a citizen assembly to a successful European citizen initiative when it gets 1 million signatures. The current process is that you get an audition to the Commission and the Parliament, and they might follow up or at least give an official reply, which makes the instrument, it's part of the weakness of the instrument. I think the other things that we're doing with Eumans, we will discuss it in the next meetings, is how to strengthen the instruments of participatory democracy. I think the fact that we, in the same time, fight for a what with the European Citizen Initiative, the new one on global carbon pricing, and as a movement, we also work on the promotion of, for example, European citizen assemblies. As a movement, give us more strength and give us also other ways to kind of not answer to the how, but promoting spaces where the how can be developed with citizens-led processes. So I think it's important in the Eumans Weekly meeting to also have in mind the big picture of the strategy that we have and how we pursue different objectives, but then there is a trade union among them. Talking about fil rouge and trade union, Klaus, I don't know if you want to say something in reaction of what Lorenzo said on the social line and also on potentially, I mean, cooperating strongly on the ACI. Microphone, Klaus.
My proposal was that we give us translated version, which was discussed in Germany, to your group, and then we can find connections from these things, for example, for degrowth and such things, which are also included, because also in this Club of Rome paper 2022, they have not given a real political advice. They only have made facts. The political decisions have to be done after looking to these points. And that is clearly said. And there are 5 main areas where they want to go on in the political discussion. And that is in this, what we can deliver to you for the next discussion.
Thank you, Klaus. Also on the point of the unconditional basic income European citizen initiative and also connecting initiatives together are the 2 important moments. We invited Klaus and the UBI network on the meeting of Eumans on the 24th of November. The overall topic is social justice issues. So, for example, how carbon pricing can go hand in hand with policies around unconditional basic income, to have us as a group learning more about the unconditional basic income proposal, maybe giving feedback to the team that is writing the new proposal in their network to start a collaboration. And I am invited on the 7th of December to join the UBI network meeting to present the idea of a joint launch of their initiatives. Maybe if Andrea can make it, it could be a good idea to have also him in that meeting, because we can also look at what Lorenzo suggested. So how systems of taxation or defiscalization on pollution can combine with the unconditional basic income, how the revenues can be used for unconditional access to services or things like that. So maybe we can, if Klaus agrees, we could also use your meeting to try to bring more humans in that.
When is the meeting? When is the meeting? I missed.
The 7th of December. I mean, I don't want to impose on Klaus. So we have one on the 24th that is organized by Eumans on the unconditional basic income and other social elements. And then there is the UBI meeting on the 7th of December, where I will be presenting the idea of co-launching initiatives somehow, some connections. So Andrea, maybe the 7th, I mean, both the 24th and the 7th are good moments to keep exploring connections.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Okay, it's 7 to 8. I have another meeting at 8. Is there anyone else want to add something? Or we can just remind the next appointments and then close the meeting for tonight. Any last?
No. Thank you. Ciao.
So thank you, everyone. See you next Thursday. And on this website, you find the calendar of the meetings and also these proposals that Andrea shared. I mean, we can, if you have any ideas, contact us and we will keep working on this. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye, everyone. Bye.